It's after dark. Do you know where your legal AF is? Putin, Trump, illegal communications, violating criminal law. That's part of the revelations in Bob Woodward's new book, War, about frequent communication that was unknown before between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. It's not just a bromance that was being kept secret by the two of them, but it's also potentially a new round of federal crimes as Donald Trump tries to conduct a shadow foreign policy, violating the Logan Act. We talk about it all on the midweek edition of Legal AF. Take a listen. And now we have new reporting, switching gears to the Bob Woodward book called War. And there's there's a lot out there in that book. There's some digs at the Biden administration. There's some digs about foreign policy. There's some digs about, but mainly about Donald Trump and some things that they've gotten. And the parts of the book that I've read, the excerpts of that are publicly available, that were the most troubling is how Donald Trump continues to undermine our national security and collude with the Russians in order both to get elected. An aide, the most jaw-dropping for me was not, hey, Vlad, I'll send you some COVID tests that are, scarce in America and I'm not supposed to send them to you, but I'll get them to you. Lord knows how he got them over to Russia. But that one, I was like, are you effing kidding me? We know you're both germaphobes, but I don't think helping you should want the guy to die by COVID. Sorry. Not that he survived because of your testing, but the other one that was like his continued phone calls, the revelation of continued phone calls between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, including, according to one of the aides that was interviewed by Bob Woodward, the aide was thrown out of Mar-a-Lago, a room in Mar-a-Lago, so that in 2023, so that Donald Trump could have a private phone call with Vladimir Putin. And there's been at least, according to that aide, seven other phone calls like that. What is he talking about? I'll answer the question. Well, we can leave it in the chat too. What do you think they were talking about? Okay. Donald Trump doesn't want the American people to understand what the Russia collusion investigation was all about. It was about Russia trying to help get Donald Trump elected by undermining democracy and the Clinton campaign and helping bolster Donald Trump by having misinformation and disinformation that was favorable to Donald Trump wend its way through social media. And now you've got direct coordination. I'll tell you what, speaking of laws that he may be breaking, Karen, you brought up, I'll tell you what you're also not allowed to do. You're not allowed to conduct shadow foreign policy. We have one president at a time. They alone, under core constitutional rights and duties, are the ones that conduct foreign policy. And you're not supposed to be having side phone calls between a former president and Putin. For Lord knows what. What promises were made exactly, Donald? What promises were made by Putin to help you? What promises were made by you if you get back into office as to how you're going to treat Russia? And it's all against the national interest, because Donald Trump's stated position about Ukraine is against our U.S. foreign policy and our official position and that of NATO and of sovereignty of Ukraine. And all Donald Trump has to say for himself at a debate or otherwise is, I got a solution. I could solve it in a day. Yeah, your solution is that Zelensky and the Ukrainian people bend over, grab their ankles, and give up 40% of their country to Putin. And then he'll go away for now. I just bumped into a group of tourists that are staying in a building next to me from Poland. And we just had a conversation like right before recording today. And they're like in their 30s and 40s, these five guys that were there. And we were talking about politics and Poland. And they said, you should see the look on their face when I talked about Trump's position, which they knew about Ukraine. And the way they heard it is the way we thought the people heard it over there, which is, we're next. If Ukraine falls in any percentage to Russia, it will embolden him to go after Poland, which is a NATO country. And they're worried about it. It keeps Polish people up at night. And Donald Trump getting reelected or elected again keeps them up at night, as does the rest of our European alliance. And to hear that Donald Trump is making those phone calls, what was your take on and takeaway from what's being reported by a very reliable, very trustworthy Bob Woodward. I'm just going to put it this way. He puts it down on paper. It's the truth. It's been corroborated 3 or 4 times, and it is reliable reporting. That's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, as you said, we've always known that Trump loved Putin and admires Putin and really wants to be like him, and said he's going to be a dictator on day one. I mean, this new movie that's coming out about Donald Trump called The Apprentice talks about how it really follows his mentor, Roy Cohn, who's also another just real kind of harsh person, fixer, dictator, but not of a country, of just his way of doing things, and taught Trump all of the things that Trump knows about, just never admit you're wrong, and et cetera. So he admires that type of figure. And we've always known that. But what really struck me about this wasn't that he shared a COVID test with him or some COVID test, whatever it is, what it is. I don't agree with it. Why would you give a murderous dictator COVID test? Why would you help them? I could see a foreign policy reason why you want to keep the peace with nations like Russia. So that's not what bothered me. And in fact, it was reported, I think in 2020, that there were some cooperation during COVID tests sent over there. What I didn't like about it was that it was so personal. It was like he was helping him personally, not the Russian people. He was helping Putin personally. But what bothered me the most is what Bob Woodward said about how apparently Putin told Trump, hey, let's keep this between us. You won't look good for doing this. And that they're so close, that their relationship is so close that Putin can ask Trump to keep a secret for him. And Trump said, okay. Now, the one thing you got to assume is Putin recorded that phone call, right? Of course he did. And so what does he have on Trump? He could, I always worry about that the whole reason why you're not supposed to, do things like this also is with nations, with these secret calls with dictators, is then they have something over you, right? And then they can sort of influence American politics. That's why you're not supposed to have these secretive behind the scenes discussions. So that was the thing that really struck me as weird, that Putin could ask Trump to let's keep this between us, like co-conspirators. But as you said, the other thing too is that he's continuing to talk to him after the fact. And it's right around the timing has a lot to do with the war in Ukraine and events that are happening. And as you pointed out, that there's a statute that talks about that unauthorized it criminalizes unauthorized negotiation when there's disputes between nations. And it's called the Logan Act. And I don't know if you violated it, but certainly it came to mind when thinking about this all. And, the other thing is Trump's campaign, his spokesperson, Stephen Chung, and Trump, they put out a statement about this book, and, he calls Woodward a sleazebag, because that's what he loves to do, is call names, but he doesn't deny having contact with Putin. He doesn't deny these conversations with Putin. So, they said a lot of things in that statement, but certainly didn't deny it. So, we'll see.
Well, to your point, before you leave that, but to your point, they probably couldn't deny it because they probably think there could be a recording of it. And if they deny it, then Putin could leak it, or we can get our hands on it. And on your point, just before we leave this topic, I was also troubled by it. For me, it looked like Putin was serving as Donald Trump's campaign manager to help get him elected, which is exactly what we said. As between the two candidates, we know Putin wants Trump elected, just as Russia television wanted those right-wing podcasters to spread the anti-Ukraine position in America, because a weak America is what Putin is out for. Donald Trump thinks it's about relationships. It's about weakening America, putting Americans at each other's throat, which is to the benefit, and destroying the evil empire of America from within. And that is what all that Putin cares about. And he wants to get Donald Trump elected. So he's like, here's some campaign advice. It was almost like Putin became his campaign manager. Here's how you get elected. Don't mention that you and I have that close of a relationship. It's not bad for me. I'm a dictator. I know how to kill people who don't want me to stay in office. But you're in a democracy. Don't tell anybody. I mean, it's just the fact that you and I have to do a whole segment on that is remarkable. Welcome back. We got so much law and politics to talk about. We had to form a new channel in collaboration with the MeidasTouch Network. It's Legal AFMTN. Help us get to 200,000 subscribers before Halloween. Boo. Okay. Legal AF, the podcast at the intersection of law and politics. Find out what 40 million people a month already know, that Legal AF is the home of law and politics analysis and commentary like no other. If you're already part of our audience, part of our group of loyal supporters, we really appreciate you. And take that clip and send it off to people in your life and ask them to join our show. And if not, it's a personal invitation from Michael Popok to you. Join Legal AF, the podcast, Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on this YouTube channel and everywhere you get your audio podcasts from. So until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF MTN contribution on the new channel, I'm Michael Popok, and I am reporting. In collaboration with the MeidasTouch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories, the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.